Hello, this is Gary 007. The review of Cosmoteer, the second version of this. I've been playing this game recently, and I have sort of put more time into the ships I've been designing and playing recently, and I've sort of understood the game a bit more and how ships work when it comes to building them. When I first built them, I was putting stuff all over the place, trying to cram as much offensive damaging weapons on a ship as possible and hope for the best and throw a bunch of shields on there. So I'll show you some of my earlier designs. So some of my earlier designs, see, take this ship here, I've called it a missile starship, and I'll show you what I mean when it comes to the design flaws. As you can see, I would stack a lot of weaponry on a ship like this. Some big heavy cannons, you name it. I'd stick on the front and I would go in there, guns blazing, to try and do as much damage as possible. That's what they call an alpha strike sort of ship philosophy. But it has no defenses. I've got two piddly little shields here, or four of them at the front. As you can see, they sort of arch over the side, and that will take about, I don't know, 5 seconds to get through in combat role. It's a one-dimensional ship, which means it's all forward-facing. Can't rotate the ship with the way the missiles have been laid out, and it's weak because my factories placement is all wrong. When you're creating a ship, you should always have your factories underneath your turrets so that you can have continuous fire. This old design is also flawed, as you've got ammo storage. So ammo storage in the game is something that's not necessarily required if you lay out your factories corrected, because once these are gone, it's over. So the continuous fire rate will drop off dramatically if the game goes on long enough, and by then most of the front is going to be absolutely destroyed. Having missiles at the front of any spaceship is a really bad design, I think. There are exceptions to this, but we might cross that in another video. The reason why it's a bad design to have missile launchers at the front of your ship is because they're very weak. The hit points are only about 6,000 hit points, so it doesn't take much punishment before it gets destroyed. As in a large cannon, where's the durability? You've got about 3,000. What's the durability on here? There's no durability. So you got durability as well as health. I'm trying to see the hit points. 21,000 compared to 6,000. I mean, that's huge, right? So the big large turrets at the front of a ship is a good design because it's able to take damage. And when you have properly placed shields, they will protect those turrets. There's no armor at the front here. If you have a good look, there's no armor along here. So it won't take long for fires to start and massive damage. So this is a ship design that's got a lot wrong with it. A lot wrong with it. As you can see, this is these reactors. I've got way too many reactors going on in here for what's needed. I probably need half of that. In this ship I probably only need 1, 2, 3 maybe. Storages aren't needed. And again, very poor crew layout on this ship. A lot of alpha damage though, but very poor layout. And that's what I'm talking about. Here's another ship that I've created, which is a little bit better. Now this is sort of another version where I've decided to put more armor in it. So I've put more armor on a broadside ship. As you can see, the layout is a little bit more formatted, and armor is protecting the shields. So this is a good example of how you can protect your shields. So you can have your shields at the back of this to protect your weapons instead of being at the front, and then you can put a bit of armor in front. So if this gets destroyed, an incoming fire, you got armor blocks here protecting the shield while it goes down, because the shields will eventually go down. But it's got a huge flaw in this ship, and as you can see, the flaw is all of these reactors. Now you notice I've got a strip of armor along here, which is a good, at least some sort of foresight in my behalf when I built this thing. However, it's not really enough, and I've got way too much storage here that is unneeded. It's a lot of unnecessary weight on this ship. Again, bad crew design, bad crew flow, as in the way they're bunched up and all the rest of it. A lot of dead space here too. A lot of dead space in which could be utilised by putting armour blocks here. And also there is some good designs though, like I put the thrusters in the middle, but overall it's an okay ship, but it's got its flaws, and the flaws are just far too many reactors. Pluses, I've got armor in front of my shields, but overall there's a lot of weaknesses when it comes to the thrusters on the side. Yeah, it's just a big exploding train. If anything gets into there, the whole guts of this will fall out. So it's just one of those design things that you got to think about when designing your spaceships. This is another really this is a better ship design from me, but it's still flawed. As you can see, way too many reactors in here again. I never really caught cotton onto the reactor side of things. There is way too many reactors for my liking as in a ship design, and they're on a weak point. This is in the game. Weaknesses are the angles in which are like corners of ships. So whenever you're building a ship like this, you need to reinforce all through here as much as you can, because this is the biggest weakness in the ship, is these corners. So whenever you're building a ship design and you don't want to build a brick, basically a square Borg cube, you want to go and venture outside of that design, you will need to be aware that if you have corners like this, it is a weakness within a ship design. Another thing is that the main focus of this ship's weapons is the lasers. So I've decided to call it lasers, but it's got a mix of missiles and a few big cannons up here. Again, this is a better layout. You got armor blocks in here, factories are down here, but again, bad design on my part. I've got crew quarters all packed in here, which is a bad idea. As you can see, the guys, see how they run across here? See how they run? They slow down. So if you've got crew quarters scattered everywhere, where the crew has to go in and out to get power from, to feed your shields and all the rest of it, that it slows them down every time they go into a apartment. So hallways like this, corridors, is more what you want so that your crew can flow properly. At the moment, the crew are not flowing properly. So you've got crew quarters in here, you've got guys coming in here, they're slow coming in, they're slow coming out. And on a bigger ship, as the ship gets bigger, you want as much efficiency as possible for your crew at the start of a battle, any battle that you want to get into, because your crew will be standing still, stationary in their bunkers, and the minute you go into battle, you want them to be able to bolt out of those crew quarters, straight to reactors or to load missiles. You want efficiency there. So again, this is a bad design on my part when it comes to a crew quarter layout. It is all higgledy-piggledy. Again, way too many reactors. Again, these cannon armor ammo factories are too far behind the large cannon placements, even though I've got armor behind them. The rate of fire drops dramatically when you can't feed these cannons. These cannons fire. They're big Alpha Strike cannons. The design on these cannons, they've got good life, so they'll take a while, and I've got a lot of shielding here, which is good. So it'll take a bit of punishment in the front before these all start dropping off. However, you know, the bad placement of these cannons inside these shields are also a real big minus for this. So this is a big no-no, really, like this. And I say this because your cannons can't fire. They don't have that firing arc, so they're limited to this section. So whatever you're facing, if you've got your enemy ship over here you want to take on, your whole ship's got to turn basically to start firing on that ship. These cannons here can't do that. They can't. So you're limiting 4 cannons on your ship's firing arc to protect them, but you're missing out on that firing arc, which is really needed, you know, in some situations where you can't turn your ship. It might be damaged, your shields might be down, you want to be protecting a particular side on your ship, so you do not want to be cutting off those angles of fire. So I would have personally, looking back on it, brought these down a lot lower, and I would have brought these factories up a lot closer to the guns so they're on a constant fire rate. Conveyor belts. Now, people have differing opinions on this, and my opinion is that they are absolutely needed on a bigger ship. They are crucial. They are crucial to a bigger ship, and it allows for the crew to get around very efficiently. Well placed, they outweigh the negatives, which is if you're putting in a walkway, you know, you're taking away armor from the ship. But in saying that, it's a lot more efficient for the crew to use if you've got a long ship or areas where it is necessary. So yeah, there's some pluses here with the protection side of things down here. Protecting these, trying to protect these missile launchers. My aim was at the time was to put a lot of shielding in through here, which is a reasonable idea to do so, to try and cover that. This is more what you want to be going for. I would even put in another second plate of armor in there, but it is what it is at the time. So your thrusters, it's completely up to you, but I've always, from the beginning I started this game, always like to keep my thrusters inside the ship so they don't get blown off, because once you lose mobility you are dead in the water. Anyway, so that's one of my other ship designs, my older ship designs, and it's the same with this one. It doesn't matter the size of the ship, the philosophy still stays the same. As you can see, crew quarters are all higgledy-piggledy. When the battle starts, they got to get out of there somehow, and if you look, there's only like one door at the front, so if anybody wants to get out there, it's going to be an absolutely cram fest for anything to get out of there. Way too many reactors in the middle here. Again, this is a bad design on my behalf, but again, this was a while ago, so I thought it was a good design, but it's not really. The focus is not, we're not talking about firepower so much, but the placement of that firepower. So all of these lasers, so the philosophy of this ship was to be a big laser cross, basically. However, it has its flaw in that there is plenty of shielding here. Yep, I got the armor there, got armor across there, which is great, but look at the placement of the crew quarters next to it. It's not a good design. They're not quick off the mark and getting in and getting out, and I probably would have reduced that down to about probably 2. I probably would have done, looking back on it, I probably would have placed about 1, 2, 3 more so than having 4. I would have cut that down to about 3, and I would have put another 3 over here. I would have got rid of all of these reactors along here. This was pointless. I don't know what I was thinking at the time, but you can see the benefits of having conveyor belts and the speed in which your crew get around your ship. Again, it needs to be accessible. And of course, I've put crew quarters in the weirdest and worst place you could probably have around all of those reactors. It just slows down everything. As you can see, if you look close enough with your each, so that ship design is probably quite a poor ship design. This ship here is under testing at the moment, but this is a much better ship. So this is a missile support ship. There's probably things you can critique about it, but this is a combination of things that I've been talking about throughout the whole video, is how you lay out your ship design and all the rest of it. But this one here is a combination of everything that I've learned. There's still a lot to learn, absolutely heaps to learn. So the design philosophy, before we even start, you've got to think about the design philosophy. What are you going for? So from the get-go, I wanted to make this a missile launcher ship. The primary weapon would be the missiles. And everything I incorporated around that was to keep the rate of fire up on these missiles, how I was going to protect those missiles, how my ship was going to maneuver, and what design was I going to go for. Now I wanted to sort of step away from a broadsider, like I made a few broadsiders. I wanted to sort of go away and try something slightly different in design. And yeah, that's what it's all about, you know, trying to push the limits. Now, looking at the front, you notice that I've put 2x1 block armor. You can see it as it comes up. I've layered it. This thing is very durable by layering it like this. I've put shields all through it. Right. Again, the weakest part of the ship are the angles. So you get a lot of fire coming through here, which is fine. I'll accept that because it's not a critical part of the ship. And it's the same with this. It's not a critical part of the ship, right? These are all point defenses. This is all it is. All I'm doing is, the whole point of this front of this ship, believe it or not, is to get blown apart. There's nothing at the front of this ship that I actually care about. What I care about, apart from me being greedy up here and placing a lot of weapons, rocket missiles, what I care about are all these missiles down here and all through here. This is the point of the ship's design. The front of the ship is designed to take the brunt of the damage. So that's the type of thinking you want to go through when you're designing something. So I've put a cannon factory, you notice I've put it right up there. So even though this is disposable, this is trying to make it as tough as possible also. High hit health on all these cannons. If I was to put lasers on here, it doesn't have the durability. Every time you put something through a block of armor, what you're doing is weakening the ship, but you're also making it, you know, you're weakening the ship whenever you compromise the structure of a ship by putting turrets in the front. But these are the highest HP turrets. They do a lot of alpha damage. Again, ammo factories there to keep the rate of fire up, and the rate of fire is really good. Shielding behind there, which is good. It keeps everything as safe as possible for a meantime. Now I've cut down on the reactors. You notice I don't have as many reactors as compared to something like this, you know. You notice how the reactors have cut down? I have got like 1 million in there. Not needed whatsoever. So I've cut back on the reactors. I've placed armor blocks all around there, and so that the crew can effectively keep these shields charged. I put one here to keep these this help keep these charged as well. Block of armor through here, big block of armor through here, to try and keep the center of this as protected as possible. And there's a reason, and you'll never skimp on fire extinguishers. If you've got a little corner you want to stick them into, put fire extinguishers there. They will save your life if you you know, in the heat of a battle. So I've not skimped. I've put them where I can. This is what I want to talk about: crew placement. As you can see, the crew, how they're placed, they're not higgledy-piggledy. I've deleted doors so that they can't cross over into each other. So when the battle starts, they just go straight into here, or they can go in here to get the reactor core and get plasma if they need to top up the thrusters and stuff like that. They can come out there. There's corridors. You need corridors for your crew to get going. And I've put a walkway, a moving walkway, so that the crew can move efficiently. When the battle starts, when you start a battle, all your crew are put into your quarters. So when the battle starts, they all start to pile out through the ship, and they're trying to get to where they need to go. And if they have to cross through bunkers and all the rest of it, it just slows the whole thing down. The reason why I've trying to protect it is because the middle of the ship is quite vulnerable. If you put a walkway in, again, like I said, you're compromising the structure of your ship if you're putting walkways in. But you've got to look at also being able to get your crew out of bed, basically, and into combat as soon as possible. So everywhere I put crew quarters. Now notice I don't have any obstruction in front of my reactor cores, so the guys can get in and out quite effectively and do what they need to do, so they can get to any part of the ship really quickly. Again, missile factory, there's no storages on this ship. I've got 2 missile factories on either side of reloading this thing, reloading your missile rocket launchers. Your rate of fire is astronomical, right? So that's another thing you want to think about. It's not how many launches you have, it's where you place your actual missile factory, how they're going to reload it. It needs to be as efficient as possible to get that rate of fire up. So yeah, so as you can see, the crew quarters, and of course you should put multiple control rooms in a game, but again, I just put the one in because it's right back in the most protected of the ship. And I haven't protected the thrusters. I cut down on the armor. I decided this is going to be the forward-facing ship. So any problems, it's going to take it on. It won't be taking it on sideways. It's a not broadside brawler. And you can see the layout of the crew is quite efficient here. So yeah, it's one of those things that you want to think about. So this is what I do. I go into battle. Helper. I find the ship that I'm currently working on, like this one. Legal. It's not really illegal. It's just a mod that's probably on there. The first thing you want to do, you want to test your ship. Don't test it against something that's half the price. That's not how you test a ship. You test your ship, you need to put it up against something that's going to be of equal value that you can find. It can be your own ships, or it could be a ship such as this one here. This is around equal value, right? This is about 2 million mark. That's about 2 million mark, right? You want to reset this, right? Now I'll slow it down, and I want to show you something, right? So this is a computer-generated ship. Now we're going to go into battle, and I want to show you something. I want to show you something. So when they start, you want to keep an eye on. I'll speed it up a little bit. All right, so as you can see, there's a lot of missile fire in here. This is the main tactic of this ship, is to be missile. Now see how they all got out of their beds? Everything's fired, right? Everything's gone. Everything needs to be reloaded. And your crew, look, moments into it, you got crew getting out of their beds, just like on a Navy ship. You need your guys out. You need them getting out of there ASAP. They need to get to their battle stations, and this is what's going on. So your initial strikes have gone off, and you got crew going left, right, and centre. You know, they need to get to their battle stations. So you need to have good walkways. Your shields are down. So see how your shields are down. But these armor blocks, these 2x1 armor blocks I was talking about, if you put a 1x1 armor block in here, right, you've halved the strength of the initial armor that you've put in front of it. So you want to go by 2x1 blocks when it comes to placing armor like that. It's the best way of doing things. This is run by AI. I'm not controlling it. I sit back after my work and just see how it runs. See how I said the weaknesses in here and angles. So when you're designing a ship, be very mindful of angles. The computer will target those, and it's a good way to really increase your ships, or understand what you should be putting in there, what you can't put in there. So you put a big reactor core in there, boom, gone. So you know you need to think about that. So yeah, so you can see the crew quarters all laid out quite good in this ship. So there's a good layout on the ship. It's reasonably well executed when it comes to weapons and what it was designed to do. So yeah, so the ship's designed to take the brunt. So, you know, when I design the ship, I expect to take damage on the front, but it's there to protect everything else. So a third of the ship I expect to not survive, and 2/3 of it I expect to still be combat efficient. So you'll notice how this is even at half speed, right? I'm able to launch a lot of missiles. See them all going off? If you didn't have a lot of those ammo, if you just put in a bunch of launches, you won't be able to keep up the rate of fire. So it's all about keeping up the rate of fire when it comes to taking your opponent down. Now again, this is just done by I'm just letting the AI control it, so you're just having a look and see what's being targeted. And again, you've already opened the ship up. Having reactors out the front here is dangerously, see, just like that. This is what happens when you have a railgun. They're good, but if you rely on it, you're in trouble. Again, that's why you don't have reactors poking out in the middle. So also with a missile ship like this, or any ship, you need to think about thrusters. Thrusters are a good part of the game. And it's all about keeping it at range too. So you know that by you can adjust this. I can't at the moment because of the computer, but in your combat you just hold down shift and you can move like, oh, I want to move within range, gun range. You can tell that's your gun range, and there's all your missile range, right? So you've got an overlapping of fire. So you can decide what range you want to take the enemy on, which is a good tactic that you want to do. Another one is to spin it around like that. If you're a broadsider, so you want your ship doing. Oh, I accidentally turned it around. I didn't think I turned it around. I thought it was a computer. Anyway, I'm not actually controlling it, but see the rate of fire. It's got a brilliant rate of fire, and you've already taken down the ship. And that's what it is. You know, you need to keep your rate of fire up. It's not about cramming as much weaponry at the front. It's about supporting that weaponry with ammo factory. So these guns haven't come even close to being in range yet. But you can see how far your guys have to walk. They don't have to walk very far to reload your missile launchers. So yeah, hopefully you guys get the video's been helpful. And I guess the best of luck in designing your ships. I'm sure there's a lot more to the game, but that's my second review of Cosmoteer. Hopefully you stayed around long enough to listen to it all. But yeah, alright. I'll shut up and let it destroy the ship, and yeah, thanks for listening.